The Roaring Twenties was an era of self-indulgence and celebration. The major powers had just brought an end to their First World War, so people celebrated by living their lives to the fullest. Little did anyone know the party would be short-lived, and the world would be thrown back into turmoil some 20 years later. While many entertainment industries such as professional sports would be put on hold due to the war effort, the use of music and film would evolve and grow, playing an important part in propaganda and maintaining morale. Radio broadcasting was not commonly used before World War II, but afterwards it became one of the most widespread electronic mass mediums in the world. Radio technology had been in development since the late 1800s, but it wasn't until the 1920s that it was accessible to middle-class families. During the war, radio was a staple in homes as a way to get news. Citizens all over the world would tune in to hear up-to-date information on the status of the war. One well-loved example of this was Franklin D. Roosevelt's fireside chats, in which Americans felt the president was speaking directly to them about the state of their nation. Global powers also utilized radio as a weapon, creating stations that claimed to be on their opponent's side to spread lies and disheartening messages to their enemies. Axis Sally would get in soldiers' heads by warning of unfaithful partners, and Tokyo Rose would teasingly deliver blows at American soldiers' morale. Besides being used as a tool, however, radio was also a widespread source of entertainment. How the radio truly brought people together was through music. While jazz did stay popular during World War II, it also made way for the rise of swing and big band music in the Western nations. Big band was similar to jazz, featuring the brassy sounds of saxophones, trumpets, and trombones, but also highlight a rhythm section, which would consist of piano, bass, drums, and guitar. Swing fell under the big band umbrella, specializing in lively dance tunes. Artists like Glenn Miller, the Andrews Sisters, Bing Crosby,
or would you like to swing on a star?
and Ella Fitzgerald were Allied icons. The music industry did not shy away from writing about the state of the world. In fact, many of the most popular songs leaned into it, discussing different aspects of the war. Some songs were upbeat and catchy, like Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy, while others were melancholic, such as We'll Meet Again. Other artists tried to lighten the mood with comedic songs poking fun at the Axis powers, most notably, music in the Western nations instilled patriotism in their people, giving them a sense of pride to be part of the war. It was also an escape, a way for soldiers to reminisce over what would be waiting for them back home. The USO, or United Service Organizations, was formed to help keep Allied soldiers' morale high. The nonprofit would provide good, clean fun and relaxation wherever they could, occupying whatever vacant buildings they could get their hands on. The USO offered a variety of amusements, varying from movies to games to sports, but by far the most popular was the weekly dance. Over the course of the war, the USO put on more than 425,000 live music performances for their troops, musicians often offering their services for free. Young soldiers and junior hostesses would spend the night dancing the jitterbug, jive, lindy hop, and collegiate shag. These lively dances were all about letting loose and having fun. They were silly and flashy, some of the moves earning disapproving glances from their elders. Dancing was the youth sport, and the USO was their arena. Meanwhile, the Axis forces did not share the same opinions about the rising music in the West. In Germany, all music was subject to the policy of Gleichschaltung, in which it was either approved by Hitler or strictly banned. If music was considered good enough for their dictator, then it was thought that his nation should follow suit in his tastes. The most prominent genre in Nazi Germany was classical, and whether a composer found success or not was largely based on their race. Hitler's control truly extended to every aspect of his people's lives, and everything revolved around his Aryan ideal. The reason why he found Western genres of big band and jazz inappropriate was not necessarily because of its upbeat free-spiritedness and what it represented. Instead, it was largely condemned for originating from the southern United States, founded on African American blues. On the flip side, the Japanese found a love for military marches, known as gunka, and patriotic ballads similar to the US's morale songs. Common themes of these genres were that the Japanese were the people of God, and they had a duty to preserve the honor of their country and emperor. To ensure new material was constantly being churned out, contests were often held asking denizens to write lyrics to existing tunes or compose music of their own, all for the sake of the nation. The Japanese loved their militaristic music because they believed it really was the music of the people. While both the Allied and Axis powers shared the common goal of inspiring their people to put their all into the war effort, the Allies took a cheerful approach while the Axis were more controlling. The film industry was also a large contributor to propaganda all over the world, especially in the United States. President Roosevelt knew just how influential movies were to the public. The stories of the screen weren't just cheap laughs, they sparked certain emotions in their viewers, and Franklin wanted to utilize this power to invoke Allied allegiance. After the tragic bombing of Pearl Harbor, the US officially entered the war and needed encouragement more than ever. The Office of War Information, or WWII, teamed up with Hollywood to make sure pictures made were created with the intent of helping win the war. Cinemas all over the United States asked citizens to buy war and victory bonds and donate scrap metal and rubber for recycling into machines and weapons. Newsreels depicting real combat footage and messages from politicians would play on the big screen preceding films. Like songwriters, movie makers tackled the issues of war head-on in their work. Although films were still created to entertain, they generally took a more true-to-life tone. In general, war pictures had two main objectives: to show their own side as the noble and victorious underdog, and to caricature the enemy as ignorant and malicious. Allied films would boast charming men united to overcome peril, and elegant women fighting on the home front waiting for their loves to return. Conversely, German movies fixated on celebrating the Führer and his followers. While live-action flicks focused more on praising their own men, animations did the opposite, defaming the other side. In the US, Mickey was a patriotic hero, whereas in Japanese cartoons, he was depicted as an evil, filthy rodent bombing an island of wide-eyed innocence. Cartoon heroes from Looney Tunes and Disney were seen on the front lines, battling the evils of buck-toothed Japanese and the neurotic, long-faced Hitler. Private Snafu was a series depicting a foolish Allied soldier being preyed upon by the enemy, aimed at warning real soldiers of what not to do in the face of danger.
Hello, Ma. I got a secret. I can only drop a tip. Don't breathe a word to no one, but I'm going on a trip. Shh! Don't breathe a word to no one, but he's going on a trip. Now, who in hell do you suppose it was that let my secret out? What was that I heard you say, my little sauerkraut? He wonders who in hell it was that let his secret out.
No matter the medium, motion pictures made audiences proud to be from their country, determined to win the war. Soldiers and civilians living through World War II saw the entertainment industry as an escape from the strife of their daily lives. Although they did alleviate the stresses of violent battle, these recreations were actually forms of propaganda, being used to keep spirits high and patriotic. Film and music, although often overlooked now as vintage novelties, were an essential part of the war effort.